What's going on, everybody? This your boy Mark Brook with markbrook.com, coming to bless you for a little hot minute. Listen, if you're an artist or a producer or an engineer, and you notice every single time you go to the studio, everybody talking about compressors or compression, or you may have heard about it or seen it or used the compressor, but wasn't quite sure how it worked, wasn't quite sure what it did, I'm finna put you on today. All right, so let's take a look at it in FL Studio right now. So let me get this mix out the way. So I got a project up with some audio. This green part is the audio. All this other stuff is just the beat. So I'll let you hear what the audio sound like without a compressor on it.
I get it back white if it act right. Niggas stay lit like a backlight.
So, yeah, it got a little reverb on it, you know what I'm saying? But it ain't got no compression on it. So what the compressor going to do is squash it. So if you look at this audio file, we call the peaks and stuff like that the transients. So this is the dynamic range. So pretty much anything above this, below this peak and above this peak is within the dynamic range. So all the audio is within there. We want to smallen or squash the dynamic range because we want to bring the loud sound, which is at the ceiling, closer to the floor, which is the most quiet sound. So we want to get them a little bit more uniform. Now you want to be careful because when you compress it, the bottom comes up, the floor comes up. So if it's like a fan or something like that playing in the background or some air or something like that, you're going to hear it a lot and it's going to overpower your mix. So we just want to put a little bit of control on here. So let me show you what I use. If I go to the mixer, I got everything routed to 6. It's the R compressor. This is by Waves bundles. So I know everybody don't got it, but if you don't, I'll show you another way to do it if you don't have Waves bundles. Taking a look at the compressor, we got the same things that we talked about. Threshold, ratio, we got gain, we got attack, and we got release. So let's talk about it. So first is the threshold. So just remember the threshold is like, it tells the compressor when to act. So, you know, what I like about this compressor is if I hit play,
I get it back white if it act right.
You see the levels?
Niggas stay lit like a bat.
You see the levels jumping over here on the left and the right. So the levels that's on the left is jumping for the threshold. So it's just showing you the audio so I can lower this and I can see how low it's going to take the audio or how low it's going to, you know, take before it reacts. So if it's all the way up here,
I get it back white if it act right.
The audio ain't quite reaching the top. So if I turn, you know, the compressor on and start messing with the settings, you're not going to hear nothing. So we're going to have to lower the threshold to how sensitive we want it to be. So I want it to start working when it get about right there.
I get it back white if it act right.
So I want it to work when, you know, anything goes over negative 6.2. All right, so now what I want is you got attack. So it's set to 16. I just take it all the way up when I'm rapping because on rap music, you want a quick attack. On R&B music, you might want a slower attack. And what that means is how does it transition from how it originally sounds until you hear the compressor very prominent. So if it's a quick attack, when the compressor turn on, it comes on quickly. So it catches all the words. If it comes on, you know, if I lower the attack all the way down, when I say I get it, like that, I get it, that part probably will slowly phase into the compressor. So it's not even going to be compressing it just yet. And then it'll start catching everything else. I want it to catch everything. So for rap, always, you know, try to go with a high attack. Now we have to move the ratio for something to even change. So remember the ratio is how hard you want it to work. So like, for instance, this 1 means 1 to 1. If I change this to a 3, this is a 3 to 1 ratio. And what a 3 to 1, for just to let you know, the higher your ratio, the more squashed and that the song is going to be or the vocals is going to be. But if you keep squashing it, then the shit just going to sound lifeless and don't nobody want to hear that. So if the loudest sound in my vocals, whatever the loudest sound is, if that goes over that threshold of negative 6.2, if it goes over that by 1 dB, it's going to compress it down 3 dBs. So that's essentially what it's doing. So it sounds more controlled and togetherness. So let's just play it right now with this threshold and this ratio just to see what it sounds like.
I get it back white if it act right.
And there's orange that's dropping below here over by the ratio. That's showing you how much is getting compressed. And it doesn't look like it's catching everything I wanted to catch. See, look.
I get it back white if it act right.
It only caught white and right. So I'm going to lower this ratio because I want it to work harder. Or I might keep it, at the same ratio and just lower the threshold because it's not catching any of those other parts. I know some of y'all probably like, why don't you just take the ratio down if you want, it to work hard, or if you want to see more orange down, that's showing that the compressor is working harder. Yeah, the compressor is working harder only on those pieces that is hitting. So them pieces,
I get it back white if it act right.
So just white and right is the only thing that is going to compress more. That's not what I'm trying to do. I want to get
I get it back white if it
get it back white. All of that's kind of hot. So I don't want that to be hot. So I want to get more of it. So if I lower it, you're going to see that it's catching more.
I get it back white if it act right.
Because now it doesn't have to get as loud before this starts working. And when it does work, it's going to compress it 3 decibels down. Every 1 decibel, it goes over this threshold. It's going to give it a subtle change. So I'm going to let you hear it without it. I'm going to start it without it. And then I'm going to, keep turning it back on and letting you hear it with it and without it. So let's do it without it.
I get it back white if it act right. Niggas stay lit like a backlight. Girls trying to blow me like a bagpipe. Leave without your chick, that's a bad sight. Never see you niggas, I got bad sight. You can't put your finger on who I rap like. You can't put your finger on who I rap like. Came with that cocaine, got it half price. Came with that coke. I get it back white if it act right. Niggas stay lit.
So as you notice, I lowered the threshold even more. I still feel like it wasn't compressing it enough. I kept the ratio still around a 3, you know what I'm saying? But I just lowered the threshold more because even more of it needed to get caught, because the floor, when I say the lower words, is so far from the ceiling. I just need them a lot more closely. That's why I lowered the threshold so it can work quicker. Now, if you notice, it got quiet. If I turn it on and off, it's quiet when the compressor on and it's loud when it's not on there. That's because as it's compressing and it's taking the louder sounds, making it quiet, it's making everything overall sound quiet. So check it out. This is what it on.
I get it back white if it act right.
Turn it off.
Niggas stay lit like a backlight.
So what I would do is, if that's really bothering you and you need it to be at that same level, now that's where the gain one comes into play, where you see the levels jumping over here. The gain is really called makeup gain. So you want to make up the gain that you lost, or you want to make up for what you lost when you started compressing and you lost volume. So you want to make up and gain that volume back. So I'm going to just raise this to my liking.
I get it back white if it act right. Niggas stay lit like a backlight. Girls trying to blow me like a bagpipe. Leave without your chick, that's a bad sight. Never see you niggas, I got bad sight.
I don't know if you noticed, this bar up here was turning yellow. That means it was clipping. It was too loud. So you don't want to do that, because if you have it getting hot in all your effects and presets, you're going to start to hear some distortion.
I get it back white if it act right. Niggas stay lit like a backlight. Girls trying to blow me like a back.
All right, so the volume, if you listen to it, was about the same, but the difference is with the compressor on, you could kind of hear how my voice sound more controlled. It didn't sound like I was getting too loud or too low. It sounded like I was keeping like a consistent volume. And now I know some of y'all probably looking like, dude, what the fuck, man? I don't got our compressor. I don't have waves bundles. That's some shit you got to pay for. What about with free shit? Can you do this with free shit? Free. Yes, you can. So, like, for instance, every DAW has a compressor. If it don't have a compressor, then it's not a motherfucking DAW. I don't know what the fuck you working in. But every DAW has its own little simple compressor. So let me turn this one off and let me use Fruity Loops compressor. So the Fruity compressor is like this. Now you probably see why I liked the R compressor, because you can see the levels jumping. It's more visual.
I get it back white if it act right. Niggas stay lit like a backlight.
You can see where I'm peaking. You can see how quick it's attacking it and how strongly it's attacking it with this ratio based on my attack as well. And you can see based on this threshold how much of it is going over the threshold. With the Fruity compressor, you have absolutely no visibility.
I get it back white if it act right.
It's on the audio, but it don't look like it because nothing is moving. This is just a basic standard compressor, but it's got the same stuff on it. Threshold, ratio, gain, attack, release. Boom. Now type hard. Well, let's say report latency. Actually, I don't know what the fuck that is. I thought this was the attack. Oh yeah, it's hard and soft. Hard, medium, soft. We want it to be a hard compressor because it's fast lyrics, but at the same time, I mean, you could just up the attack at the same time. So I don't quite know what the difference of the two is. If you find out what the difference of that is, please leave it in the comments below because I want to know. I just don't got time to research it. All right, so I'm going to raise the attack. Let's do the threshold. What do we have the threshold on this one? Negative 25.8. I thought you would be able to just kind of click the number and just type the shit in. All right. And then it was like a ratio of a 3 to 1. It was a little lower than that. It was like a 2.9. And then did we have any makeup gain? 2.3. I'm just curious because certain compressors sound differently. It's not like you're going to get the same exact sound with each compressor if the settings is the same. Some of them sound warmer. Some of them sound brighter. Some of them sound like it's got a lot more high end to it. Some sound like they got a lot more low end to it. And that's tonality, not loudness and quietness. So let's just play it with this one on.
I get it back white if it act right. Niggas stay lit like a backlight. Girls trying to blow me like a bagpipe.
So it sounds similar, but I feel like the Fruity compressor sounds more boxy. Boxy means it sounds like you talking in a box a little bit. And I feel like the R compressor sounds more crispy, like up front in front of you in your face. Something like that, you might be like, well, what if I wanted to sound like the other way? I mean, if you wanted to sound like the other way, we're not even talking about EQs, but we can go ahead and just go in here. Like, I like Fab Filter. So I'll get a EQ. Open it up. All right, so I get an EQ, and when I play it,
I get it back.
Again, this is a visual EQ. That's why I like it. So I can see what frequencies is low and loud.
I get it back white if it act right.
You see the mids was kind of loud, but the highs wasn't. So I'm going to just put a high shelf on there. And that's going to just kind of take all those frequencies up to make it shine more or give it a little bit more color.
I get it back white if it act right.
So now it's kind of got that feel to it. If you want me to make a video on what an EQ is, which is called an equalizer, please leave it in the comments below. If you have no idea what that is. For the sake of this video, I just put that on there so you could just kind of hear the sound difference.
I get it back white if it act right. Niggas stay lit like a...
Now, if you listen to it, it actually sounds brighter than this one with the other compressor on there, which is fine. If you feel like it's too bright, then you could just go back into, in here, and then you could just lower it a little bit so the frequency is not as high.
I get it back white if it act right. Niggas stay lit like a backlight. Girls trying to blow me like a bagpipe. Leave without your chick, that's a bad sight.
So with that compressor and a little bit of shine on it from the EQ, it sounds just like the R compressor. So you don't got to spend thousands of dollars for this shit. You just got to know how to work with what you got. I mean, technically, all the stock shit, it's people that use all of the stock plugins and they get a phenomenal sound. Also, if you really want more control over the vocals, like I know it's kind of confusing because we keep talking about loudness and quietness, and it's kind of tucking them in, making it more uniform. But nevertheless, when you speak, you don't always speak at the same tone, everything you say. You know what I'm saying? Nobody talks like that. Like you can hear me getting loud, you can hear me getting quiet and stuff like that too. So if you really want it to sound natural and not compressed, because the compression, you can hear it tucking them sounds in. But if we just want the volume to be even, but the sound sonically sound the same, then you want to do a vocal rider. So I like to use vocal riders all the time. I don't even think I ever get through a project without using it. The only one I really know about is Waves Plugins Vocal Rider. And if you don't have this, I'll show you how you can do it without this. So you got Vocal Rider. I'm going to put that on there. And what this essentially does is just control the volume of it throughout the course of the verse. So I want it on a fast release, or a fast attack, excuse me. Well, I want it on a fast attack because it's rap. And I want it for the vocal sensitivity. I'm going to turn it up just a little bit, 2.2. And then let me listen to it because the audio going to jump here and I can see where my target is at.
I get it back white if it act right. Niggas stay lit.
So you see this knob is way lower than where you see the audio jumping. I don't want to make it all quieter. I just want it to sound consistent.
I get it back white if it act right. Niggas stay lit like a backlight.
So I just kind of go a little bit below where the lowest point goes, which is a little bit below average range, just so I can see what I'm controlling. And this knob is showing you how many decibels is dropping as it's hitting each part. So look.
I get it back white if it act right. Niggas stay lit like a backlight. Girls trying to blow me like a bagpipe.
Now, it doesn't look like it's doing a lot. It's real subtle. But if you listen to that over the beat, it's going to sound more uniform now instead of just kind of it didn't even sit in the mix at all. So let's listen to it with the beat.
I get it back white if it act right. Niggas stay lit like a backlight. Girls trying to blow me like a bagpipe. Leave without your chick, that's a bad sight.
You see how much more control that has? So if I turn all of this off and play it with the beat, the compressor and the vocal rider, it's not going to sound like it's sitting on the beat.
I get it back white if it act right. Niggas stay lit like a backlight. Girls trying to blow me like a bagpipe.
And I actually had some decent control on that song, but this is with it.
I get it back white if it act right. Niggas stay lit like a backlight.
To you guys, it probably don't make much of a difference, but trust and believe it does. You ain't gonna hear all of this unnecessary added garbage in there. All right, so if you don't have a vocal rider, you just gonna have to vocal rider on your own by creating an automation clip. If you don't know what an automation clip is, just put it in the comments below like, yo, Mark, what the fuck is that? Do a tutorial on it. Then I'll do a tutorial on that on its own, but I'm still gonna show you how to do one right now. So if I want to put a vocal rider only on that audio, I would just go to the channel. And then when I go to the channel, it's got faders on it that kind of show you the volume.
Back white if it act right. Niggas like a backlight. Girls trying to.
So that's my fader. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy that value of where it's at because that's the main volume that we want to get back to all the time. So that's average volume. And then I'm going to right click it again and hit create automation clip. Now, if I look at my playlist, here it is. This is an automation clip of volume for insert 6, which is what this vocal is routed to. So
back white if it act right. Niggas stay lit like a backlight. Girls trying to blow me like a bagpipe.
So let's tuck some of these tall ones in. It's easy to do because you can see everything. So I'm gonna put the dot there. I want to catch this word and I want to, clean it up, tuck it in a little bit because the volumes look like they all over the place. So I'm going to take that. It's almost like just taking the points and just kind of drawing it on the grid. Boom. Now, if you hear it right now, it's going to go off because that's all the way at the bottom, which is no volume. So check it out.
Back if it act right.
So some people do that when they like editing, trying to edit out words or whatever. But what we're trying to do is just to keep the volume consistent. So I'm gonna raise this and see what happens if it go about that low.
Back white if it act.
That's way too low. Let's raise it some more.
Back white if it.
Still too much. Now you probably looking like, nigga, you barely got it dropping, and then that's just because this isn't wide. If I make that wide, then I can see more of it. So let me take it up.
Back white if it act right. Back white if it.
You see how the back and white sound together now? Listen.
I get it back white if it act right.
But then the right is still too loud. So what I could do is, for starters, let me paste this value to bring that up to regular. Let me paste that to bring it up to regular. Let me copy that value, and then I'm gonna paste that value on that one so they exactly even. So it's perfect now. Listen.
I get it back white if it act right.
So if I just kind of wanted it to go right there too, I don't have to necessarily do it, you know what I mean, all one by one if I don't want to. If like my pattern is real similar, it's very easy because I kind of got this on the grid. So all I would essentially do for me, and you could do it differently, you could just do it one by one if you want. I'm going to just cut this shit, right? I'm like, let's work smarter, not harder. So I cut off some of the back end, and then I'm going to cut off some of the beginning. Because none of that other shit we need, because it's regular volume. So I'm going to take that one and just duplicate it. And then I'm going to line it up on the grid because it's snapping to the grid anyway.
I get it back white if it act right.
Bam.
Niggas stay lit like a back. Get it back white if it act right. Niggas stay lit like a backlight. Girls trying to.
Then I want to get all of the backlight. So all I would have to do is take this one and just move it over.
Get it back white if it act right. Niggas stay lit like a backlight.
You see what I'm saying? So that's how you would do it if you don't have a vocal rider. So if you got any questions, please, or if you felt like I left something out or left something out, I know it was supposed to be about compression. We kind of went through compression. We went through a little bit of EQ, and we went through vocal riding, whether you're using a vocal rider or whether you have to do it manually because you don't have to plug in. So please hit that subscribe button at the bottom and hit the little bell so you can get notifications whenever I post. I try my best to fulfill whatever y'all want me to when y'all asking me what tutorials y'all want me to do it on. But it's been real, y'all. Hopefully you got one step closer to getting a clean mix. Peace.
I get it back white if it act right. Niggas stay lit like a backlight. Girls trying to blow me like a bagpipe. Leave without your chick, that's a bad sight. Never see you niggas, I got bad sight. You can't put your finger on who I rap like. You can't put your finger on who I rap like.